The twin suns of Nova Terra were dipping behind jagged crystal mountains, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. Dr. Elias Wren wiped sweat from his brow as he adjusted the solar filters on his small lab module. The air shimmered with heat. Yet, Elias didn't mind. Working alone on the frontier planet was always demanding, but he liked the silence and the freedom it gave him. For years, he had studied alien species that wandered near the human colonies, creatures that were rare, elusive, and sometimes dangerous. Most of the time, his only visitors were the small lizards with translucent scales or the feathered gliders that swooped past his lab. He had grown used to their strange cries and glowing eyes, but nothing in all his years had prepared him for what was about to happen. A sudden shadow fell across the forest clearing. Elias looked up just in time to see something enormous descending from the sky. His heart skipped. The ground trembled under heavy footsteps, or was it wings? The air filled with a low, almost musical rumble that shook the very soil beneath him. A dragon. A real dragon. Its scales glimmered like liquid starlight, reflecting the dying sun in colors he had never seen before. The wings were enormous, each beating slowly yet powerfully, stirring gusts that lifted dust and leaves. But what caught Elias most was not the dragon's size or beauty, it was the sound it made. A soft, trembling wail. A cry of sorrow so deep, it resonated in Elias's chest. He froze. He had read stories of dragons in ancient human records, myths of power and fear. But he had never imagined hearing a sound like this. It was not a roar of rage. It was not a warning. It was grief. Pure, desperate grief. Clutched in the dragon's claws was something small, fragile, and obviously dying. Its scales were dull, its breathing shallow. Elias's mind raced. Dragons did not approach humans. Dragons feared humans. But this one was bringing her child to him. The dragon landed with a heavy thud, shaking the ground so violently that Elias had to hold onto a nearby tree to stay upright. The mother lowered her massive head, eyes gleaming with tears, liquid light sliding down her cheeks, burning with sorrow. She nudged her hatchling toward him. For a moment, Elias could only stare. His scientific mind screamed to run, to take a sample, to record everything. But his heart said something else entirely. He stepped forward slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. The dragon made a soft, low rumble, almost like a sigh. Then, she bowed her head slightly, lowering her young just enough that Elias could reach it. He hesitated, then gently took the hatchling in his arms. It was lighter than he expected, yet he felt the incredible warmth of life, still faintly pulsing through its tiny body. The mother dragon watched him intently, her eyes glowing faintly in the twilight. Every muscle in her massive body was tense, but there was no attack, only hope. I'll try, Elias whispered, more to himself than to the dragon. He turned and carried the small creature toward his lab, every step careful. He could feel the dragon following, her wings tucked close, her massive claws barely brushing the forest floor. Inside the lab, Elias laid the hatchling on a soft, insulated table. He examined it carefully, noting the shallow breathing, the pale glow of its underscales, and the faint traces of cosmic energy that still lingered in its veins. "This is a cosmic infection," he muttered. "Exposure to unstable energy crystals. I've read about it, but I've never treated it before." The mother dragon pressed her snout to the lab's transparent wall, her amber eyes never leaving him. She lowered her head, almost bowing, as if asking him to save her child. The sincerity, the desperation, burned into Elias's memory. He worked quickly, pulling together equipment and chemicals, scanning his databases for any method that could help. It was risky. No human had ever treated a dragon before. Any mistake could kill the hatchling or worse. But Elias knew he couldn't turn back. Not now. Outside, the wind picked up. The twin moons began to rise, casting silver streaks across the crystal forest. The mother dragon shifted restlessly, letting out soft cries that echoed through the trees. Each sound vibrated in Elias's chest, making it impossible to ignore the gravity of the moment. Hours passed. Elias worked tirelessly, mixing compounds, adjusting energy fields, and monitoring the hatchling's vitals. Every so often, he would glance at the mother outside. She did not leave. She did not roar in anger at the humans who occasionally passed near the edge of the forest. She only waited, her grief palpable, her hope fragile but unyielding. Elias realized something profound. The mother had trusted him, a human, to save what she loved most. And she had taken a risk she could never undo. Finally, he prepared the treatment. The serum was a glowing, silvery fluid, humming with controlled energy. It was untested on a living creature this size, but it was the only chance. He whispered to the hatchling, "This might hurt, but it will save you. You have to fight." The hatchling's small, translucent wings twitched. Its eyes opened slightly, flickering weakly with light. Elias took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves, and injected the serum. Almost immediately, the hatchling convulsed gently. Elias froze, fearing the worst. But then, the tiny body began to glow faintly, the energy from the serum weaving through its veins. Its breathing grew stronger. Its small claws flexed. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, it opened its eyes fully. The mother dragon let out a soft, melodic cry of relief that shook the forest. Elias stepped back, overwhelmed by the miracle he had just witnessed. The hatchling, still trembling slightly, opened its mouth in a weak but happy squeak. Outside, the mother dragon bowed her head, wings folding around her body. She was silent now, her grief replaced by a cautious joy. For a moment, humans and dragons simply stared at each other, recognizing the bond that had been formed. Elias realized something he had never thought possible. Humanity had a chance to earn the trust of creatures far older and wiser than themselves. Trust was fragile, but it could be given and, in this case, it had been given to a human who dared to care. The mother dragon nudged her hatchling gently with her snout, and the young dragon, now breathing steadily, looked back at Elias as if acknowledging his courage. The bond was not complete, but it had begun. As the twin moons rose fully, casting a pale light over the crystalline forest, Elias knew this night would change everything. The frontier of Nova Terra was no longer just a human outpost. It was a place where hope, courage, and trust could create something new, a beginning that could bridge the gap between two very different worlds. The mother dragon stepped back slightly, her wings stretching in a slow, graceful motion. She did not leave, but she did not move closer. She waited, watching Elias, and Elias returned the gaze with a silent promise. He would protect her young, no matter what. And so, in the quiet of Nova Terra's night, a human and a dragon stood together for the first time in history, united not by fear or curiosity, but by hope, courage, and the fragile thread of trust that could someday weave an unbreakable bond. The night on Nova Terra was quiet, but the quiet was heavy, filled with expectation. Dr. Elias Wren worked in his lab, eyes glued to the small dragon hatchling. Its tiny chest rose and fell with labored breaths, and faint glows of healing energy from the serum pulsed along its scales. Every second mattered. Every mistake could be the difference between life and death. Elias carefully adjusted the energy stabilizer around the hatchling. He had designed it to balance the cosmic energy that had caused the infection in the first place. It hummed softly, a sound almost like a heartbeat. The young dragon's breathing grew steadier, but the glow that spread over its scales was uneven. Elias frowned. "This is unstable," he muttered. "I need to keep it balanced." or it could burn out too quickly. Outside, the mother dragon waited, her massive body coiled like a living fortress. She paced the clearing, her scales flickering faintly in the moonlight. Every so often, she would let out a soft, trembling cry that reverberated through the lab walls. It was not a roar of anger or threat. It was a sound of desperation, of hope, of love. Elias could feel it in his bones. He glanced at her through the reinforced glass wall. "I'm doing everything I can," he said softly, though he knew she couldn't understand his words. But she understood his intentions. That had to be enough. Hours passed. Elias worked with meticulous care, alternating between monitoring the hatchling's vital signs and adjusting the stabilizer. Sweat ran down his face. His arms ached, but he could not stop. The hatchling's life depended on him, and the trust of the mother depended on him as well. "This serum," he muttered to himself, "was never designed for a living dragon, but it's the only chance." He carefully prepared another dose, one that would strengthen the hatchling's energy without overwhelming its small body. The mother dragon watched from outside, her eyes never leaving him. She did not pace as much now. She stood still, her massive wings folded around her like a protective cocoon. The trust she had placed in a human was extraordinary, and it weighed on Elias more than he could explain. Suddenly, a distant hum reached the clearing. Elias froze. It was not the wind or the sound of his equipment. The hum grew louder, mechanical, and precise. Human patrol ships were approaching. They had detected the energy readings from the dragon and were moving in. Elias's heart sank. He knew the consequences if they found the dragon here. Most humans did not understand dragons. Most humans feared them, and fear often led to violence. The mother dragon's body tensed. She let out a low, rumbling warning. The sound vibrated through the glass walls, shaking dust from the ceiling. Elias knew he had to act quickly, not only to save the hatchling, but also to protect the fragile trust they had formed. He turned to the hatchling. Its eyes fluttered weakly, and its tiny wings twitched. "You're strong," he whispered. "You can make it through this." With careful hands, he injected the second dose of the serum. The hatchling shivered, and a soft, radiant glow spread across its scales. The glow stabilized this time, brighter and steadier than before. Elias exhaled, relief washing over him. But he knew it was not over yet. The patrol ships were still approaching. Outside, the mother dragon let out another soft cry, almost like a sigh of relief. She lowered her massive head toward the lab, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. Elias met her gaze and nodded. "I will protect you," he said silently, more to her than to anyone else. The sound of engines grew louder, and soon the first human patrol ship landed at the edge of the clearing. Soldiers stepped out, scanning the forest with alert eyes. They did not yet see the dragon, but they had detected the energy readings and were cautious. Elias quickly moved to the reinforced observation window. The mother dragon stood between the soldiers and the lab, scented, her massive form a living barrier. She did not attack. She did not roar. She only stood, silent but commanding. Her eyes locked on the intruders. The soldiers raised their weapons cautiously. One of them, a young lieutenant, hesitated. It's huge," he whispered to his companion. "But I don't see any signs of aggression. Should we?" Elias knew he had to act fast. He stepped out into the open, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "Wait!" he called. "It's not attacking. She brought her child here for help. She's trusting me." The soldiers froze. The lieutenant lowered his weapon slightly. The others were unsure. They had never seen anything like this. The mother dragon let out a low, melodic hum that seemed to ripple through the air. Even the soldiers could feel it vibrating in their chests. It was not a threat. It was a call for understanding, for patience, for respect. Elias took a deep breath. "You don't understand," he said firmly. "This is not just any dragon. This is a mother, protecting her young. She is not your enemy. If you step forward, you could harm them, or me." The soldiers exchanged glances. Some nodded slowly. Fear was still there, but curiosity and caution were winning over. Inside the lab, the hatchling's glow pulsed steadily. Its breathing had normalized, and its tiny claws flexed with newfound strength. Elias felt a surge of hope. "Almost there," he whispered. "You're going to make it." The mother dragon shifted slightly, lowering her head closer to the lab walls. She let out another soft, rumbling sound, almost like a whisper. Elias smiled, realizing she was trying to comfort her child. The soldiers took a step back, giving space. Elias moved carefully to reinforce the lab door, ensuring that no sudden movements could trigger fear in the dragon. He knew that any mistake could undo everything. Hours passed. The patrol soldiers remained at a distance, watching silently. Elias monitored the hatchling, adjusting the energy stabilizer and checking its vitals. Each adjustment was delicate, each movement precise. He was no longer just a scientist. He was a guardian, a protector, and a negotiator between species. Finally, the hatchling stirred. Its eyes opened fully, shining with a soft, blue light. It looked up at Elias and made a small, happy squeak. The glow from its scales spread evenly now, stable and warm. Outside, the mother dragon let out a sound that shook the leaves on the trees, a sound of relief and gratitude. She lowered her massive head, almost bowing to Elias. The gesture was extraordinary. Dragons rarely, if ever, acknowledged humans in this way. Elias smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment he had never known. He had done something that many humans thought impossible. He had saved a dragon. He had earned its trust. But the night was not yet over. The soldiers still watched, unsure, and beyond them, more humans could arrive. Elias knew this was only the beginning. Protecting the hatchling and the mother would require courage, patience, and ingenuity, unlike anything he had faced before. He looked at the mother dragon. Her eyes were soft now, filled with cautious trust. She had brought her child to a human, a risk she could not take lightly, and he had honored that risk. "This is just the start," he whispered. "We will get through this together." As the twin moons of Nova Terra rose higher, casting silver light across the crystalline forest, Elias realized something profound. The bond between human and dragon had begun with trust and courage, and that bond would be the key to survival not just for the hatchling, but for the fragile alliance that could one day unite two very different worlds. For the first time, Elias felt the weight of responsibility and the hope of possibility. The mother dragon had trusted him. He would not fail, and somewhere deep in the forest, hidden among the glowing trees, the future was quietly unfolding. A future where humans and dragons might walk side by side, not as enemies, but as allies. The first light of dawn crept over the crystalline peaks of Nova Terra, casting long, glittering shadows across the forest floor. Dr. Elias Wren had barely slept. The hatchling dragon lay peacefully on the soft energy table, glowing faintly but steadily. Its small wings twitched occasionally, a sign that it was regaining strength. Elias watched it with a mix of relief and worry. But peace on Nova Terra was a fragile thing. A distant hum grew louder, unmistakably mechanical, and the low vibration shook the leaves outside. Human patrol ships were landing near the clearing. They had likely detected the energy signatures of the mother dragon, or perhaps the glow of the hatchling, and curiosity, as well as fear, had brought them here. Elias's heart raced. He knew the soldiers could not understand what he had accomplished. Dragons were considered dangerous, unpredictable creatures. Most humans assumed any dragon sighting required immediate action. Capture, containment, or even elimination. He glanced at the mother dragon, who had stepped forward as the first patrol ship touched the ground. Her scales shimmered in the morning light, but her posture was rigid, protective. She did not roar. She did not move aggressively. She only stood between the approaching humans and the lab, her massive wings partially spread, forming a barrier that could not be crossed. The soldiers disembarked carefully, weapons raised, scanning the area. Their faces were tense. They whispered to each other, uncertain what to expect. One of them, a young lieutenant with sharp eyes, seemed to hesitate. "Sir, it's huge," he said quietly. "But I don't see any movement. Aggression. Should we?" The commanding officer, a tall, stern man, frowned. "Stay alert. These creatures are unpredictable. Keep your distance." Elias knew he had only one chance to prevent disaster. He stepped into the clearing, his hands raised high. "Wait!" he shouted. "It's not attacking. She brought her child here because she trusts me. Please, listen." The soldiers froze. Their weapons wavered, uncertain. The mother dragon's eyes flicked toward Elias, then back to the humans. She let out a low, melodic hum that vibrated through the forest. It was not a roar of anger, but a sound of warning, a sound that demanded attention. It echoed in Elias's chest, making him feel the depth of the dragon's intelligence and emotion. Elias continued, "The hatchling is sick. I'm saving it. This mother has done what no human would expect. She has brought her child to us for help. We cannot hurt her." A few soldiers lowered their weapons slightly, curiosity battling with fear. The lieutenant, the young man with hesitation in his eyes, whispered, "I've never seen anything like this." Elias nodded, gesturing toward the lab. "Inside. That's where the hatchling is. Please, give me space. Do not approach." The commanding officer took a moment to assess the situation. The dragon was enormous, but it was not making any aggressive moves. There was a human in front of it, speaking, reasoning. The lieutenant's whispered words, the hesitation, and the calmness of Elias created a momentary pause in the soldier's instincts to attack. Finally, the officer barked softly. "Hold position. Watch and wait." Inside the lab, Elias checked the hatchling. Its chest rose and fell evenly, and its tiny scales shimmered with soft energy. He felt a wave of relief wash over him. The serum had worked. The dragon had survived. But he could not relax, not yet. Outside, the mother dragon remained alert, guarding the lab as if it were her own life. Hours passed slowly. The soldiers watched, some curious, some nervous. The mother dragon shifted occasionally, wings stretching and folding, her massive form blocking any approach to the lab. She did not roar. She did not attack. She only waited, her eyes glowing faintly, focused on Elias. Elias realized that the trust the mother dragon had placed in him was extraordinary. She had risked approaching humans, creatures she had likely avoided her entire life, because she believed he could help her child. And now, he had to honor that trust, not just for the hatchling's survival, but to ensure that nothing provoked the soldiers into an unnecessary conflict. He stepped out again, this time holding a small, glowing instrument he had designed to stabilize the hatchling's energy. "I am continuing treatment," he called to the soldiers. "I am not a threat. Please, do not interfere." One of the soldiers, braver than the rest, stepped forward cautiously. "Sir, is it really alive?" he asked, gesturing toward the hatchling inside. "Yes," Elias said firmly. "It is alive, thanks to the serum I injected, and the mother has trusted me to protect it. We are not enemies. I need you to understand that." The officer studied Elias for a long moment, then looked at the dragon. Its wings were still partially spread, body tensed. Yet there was no aggression. The officer's voice softened, barely audible. Do not fire. Stay alert, but do not fire. Relief washed over Elias. He nodded at the officer. Thank you. You are seeing what I see. This is not a threat. It's life. Time passed. Elias worked carefully, monitoring the hatchling, while explaining his actions to the soldiers at a safe distance. The mother dragon remained still, occasionally shifting her massive head to glance at the humans. Her eyes never leaving Elias. There was no hostility in her gaze, only wariness and trust toward the human who had helped her child. The hatchling twitched, its tiny wings fluttering. Elias smiled. Almost there, little one. You're going to be strong again. A soft rumble echoed from the mother dragon. It was a sound of approval, of encouragement. The soldiers watched, mesmerized by the unusual scene. Some of them lowered their weapons fully now, captivated by the bond between human and dragon. But not all soldiers were convinced. A few glanced nervously at the edges of the forest, as if expecting something to attack from the shadows. Elias understood their caution. Dragons were still mysterious, and fear was natural. But he knew that if anyone acted hastily, it could ruin everything he had worked for. The lieutenant approached carefully, speaking softly. Sir, it's incredible. I didn't think... we never imagined a dragon could trust a human like this. Elias nodded, focusing on the hatchling. Trust is fragile, but it is real, and we have to protect it, both of them. That's the only way forward. The soldiers stepped back, maintaining a respectful distance. Outside, the mother dragon let out a low, melodic hum that vibrated in the air. It was not just a sound, it was a message, a warning, a call for understanding. It seemed to say, do not harm, respect life. Elias realized that this was the first true test, not of science, not of medicine, but of humanity's ability to understand life beyond itself. This was a moment that could define relations between humans and dragons for generations. The hatchling stirred again. Its tiny head lifted, and its glowing eyes fixed on Elias. A small squeak escaped its mouth, a sound of recognition and life. The mother dragon responded with a soft rumble, nuzzling the ground near the lab as if sharing her relief. Elias smiled, exhausted but triumphant. You made it, he whispered. You're going to be okay now. Outside, the soldiers watched silently, awe replacing fear. Even the commanding officer could not hide his amazement. Humanity has done something impossible, he muttered. The mother dragon's wings stretched fully, the tips brushing the ground, creating a shimmering aura in the morning light. She had chosen to trust a human, and that trust had been honored. The hatchling's tiny body glowed steadily, breathing strong and even. Elias felt the weight of what he had accomplished. This was more than saving a life. It was a bridge between species, a chance to prove that humans could rise to extraordinary challenges. It was a moment where courage, understanding, and compassion had combined to create something miraculous. As the twin suns rose higher, filling the forest with golden light, Elias knew that the bond between human and dragon was only beginning. The soldiers would return to their outposts with stories that would inspire awe and perhaps, someday, understanding. The mother dragon lowered her head one last time, glancing at Elias with a look that was both protective and grateful. She had brought her child to a human, a risk she could never have taken lightly. And Elias had honored that risk. For the first time in centuries, a human had earned a dragon's trust. And somewhere deep in the forest, the future of Nova Terra began to change. The sun had climbed higher over Nova Terra, casting sparkling light across the crystalline forest. Dr. Elias Wren stood in his lab, eyes fixed on the small dragon hatchling that now lay on the energy stabilizer table. Its breathing had normalized, and its tiny body pulsed with a steady glow. Elias could feel the life returning stronger with every second. Outside, the mother dragon rested near the lab, her massive wings tucked around her as if she were protecting her child even while it slept. Her eyes were soft, watching every movement Elias made. But there was still tension in her posture. She had never let her young out of her sight before, and she had come a long way to trust a human. Elias took a deep breath and checked the vitals of the hatchling. The serum had worked better than he expected, but there was one last step to fully stabilize its energy. The hatchling needed a controlled surge of cosmic energy to synchronize its body with the rare energy that had caused the infection. "This is risky," Elias muttered to himself. "If I get this wrong, we could lose it." But the hatchling's weak squeak seemed to urge him forward. Its small wings twitched as if it wanted to fight. Elias smiled. "All right, let's finish this." He carefully connected the energy stabilizer to a small device he had designed. It was a glowing orb that would channel energy directly into the hatchling, allowing its body to absorb it slowly. The room filled with a soft hum, and the light from the orb bathed the lab in a calm blue glow. The hatchling shivered slightly as the energy flowed into it. Elias monitored the readings carefully. Its small chest rose and fell with growing strength. The glow from its scales spread evenly, brighter than before. Outside, the mother dragon let out a low, trembling rumble, her wings twitching slightly. She could feel the energy flowing into her young. The vibrations in the ground echoed her relief and hope. Suddenly, the hatchling let out a small squeak of surprise. The energy pulsed stronger, and its tiny claws flexed with renewed strength. Its wings fluttered more confidently, stretching slightly as if testing their strength. Elias held his breath. "It's working," he whispered. "You're going to be okay." The glow from the hatchling grew brighter, filling the lab with soft, shimmering light. The stabilizer hummed, in perfect rhythm, with the hatchling's heartbeat. Elias carefully adjusted the energy flow, ensuring it remained steady and safe. The hatchling's eyes opened fully, shining with a soft, bright light. For the first time, it moved its head, independently, looking at Elias. A small, happy squeak escaped its mouth, a sound of recognition, of life, of triumph. Outside, the mother dragon's eyes widened. She let out a melodic cry that shook the leaves of the crystalline forest. It was not a roar of anger or warning, it was a sound of pure joy, relief, and gratitude. She lowered her massive head, letting out a gentle rumble that seemed almost like a laugh. Elias stepped back, exhausted but overjoyed. He had done it. The hatchling was alive, fully healed, and thriving. It was an unbelievable moment, one that no one on Novaterra would ever forget. The mother dragon cautiously stepped into the clearing near the lab, her massive claws making soft impressions in the soil. She lowered her head closer to the hatchling, nuzzling it gently with her snout. The young dragon squeaked happily, curling against its mother's massive body. Elias watched silently, understanding the depth of what had just happened. This was not just a miracle. It was a bond, a connection between human and dragon that had been built on trust, courage, and care. The soldiers who had been watching from a distance were now speechless. Even the commanding officer lowered his weapon, awestruck by the scene unfolding before him. "Unbelievable," he whispered. "A human saved a dragon." The mother dragon lifted her young slightly, holding it close to her chest. Her eyes shifted toward Elias, glowing with a soft, golden light. It was not just gratitude, it was respect. The kind of respect that dragons rarely gave, even to their own kind. Elias felt a warmth in his chest. He had never expected this, never imagined that his actions would earn the trust of a creature so ancient and powerful. And yet, Here it was, clear and undeniable. The hatchling's tiny wings fluttered, and with a sudden burst of energy, it lifted slightly into the air, hovering above the stabilizer table. Elias held his breath. Its wings were strong now, fully ready to grow and fly. The mother dragon let out a soft rumble of encouragement, and the hatchling rose higher, circling around the lab in small, careful loops. It squeaked in delight, testing its strength and exploring its newfound freedom. Elias smiled, feeling a mix of relief, pride, and awe. He had not only saved a life, he had created a bond that could change everything. The mother dragon had trusted a human, and he had honored that trust. The soldiers were now completely captivated. They had never seen anything like it. An ancient, powerful creature showing trust, and a human rising to meet the challenge with courage and skill. Some of them lowered their weapons fully, realizing that fear was not the answer. The commanding officer shook his head in disbelief. "We need to report this," he muttered. This changes everything." Elias turned to the mother dragon. She stepped closer, lowering her massive head to his level. Her eyes glowed softly, and for a moment, the two of them simply stared at each other. There were no words, none were needed. The trust and understanding between them were clear. The hatchling squeaked again, fluttering in a tight circle around Elias. The mother dragon let out a soft rumble, almost like laughter, and nudged her young gently. The hatchling landed gracefully on the ground, still glowing softly but moving confidently. Elias reached out a hand slowly. The hatchling stepped toward him, tiny claws clicking softly on the lab floor. He knelt down, letting it nuzzle his hand. Its scales were warm, and the soft glow seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. The mother dragon watched closely, wings partially spread, but there was no fear, no tension. Only trust. For the first time in history, a human had earned the trust of a dragon not through fear, not through force, but through courage, care, and understanding. The soldiers quietly moved back, giving space. They had witnessed something extraordinary. A moment that would change how humans viewed dragons forever. Even the young lieutenant whispered to his companion, I can't believe it. A human helped it, and the mother trusts him." Elias stood slowly, brushing dust from his clothes. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. "We have to protect them, help them grow, and learn from each other. This bond, it can change everything." Oldham the Redder 7. The mother dragon lowered her head once more, brushing her snout against Elias gently, a gesture of respect and acknowledgement. She had chosen to trust a human, and he had proven worthy. As the twin suns of Nova Terra rose higher, their light reflecting off the crystalline forest, Elias looked at the mother and hatchling dragons. They were more than creatures to study now, they were allies, friends, and symbols of hope. And somewhere deep in the forest, beyond the view of any human settlement, the air seemed to shimmer with promise. Trust had been given, courage had been shown, and life had been saved. The unbelievable moment had happened. A human had faced the impossible and emerged not just successful, but respected by a being older, wiser, and far stronger than himself. For Elias, the day had started as any other on the frontier, but it would end as a turning point for him, for humanity, and for the dragons of Nova Terra. The mother dragon spread her wings wide, lifting her young slightly into the air. They circled the lab once, a graceful flight of freedom and strength. Elias watched them soar, a smile on his face. In that moment, he knew one thing clearly. This was only the beginning of a new era. A human had earned a dragon's trust, and that trust would never be forgotten. The sky over Nova Terra was bright and clear, with twin suns shining over the crystalline forest. Dr. Elias Wren stood at the edge of his lab clearing, watching the mother dragon and her young hatchling soar above. Their scales glittered like living jewels, catching the sunlight and sending shimmering reflections across the forest. It had been days since the hatchling had been fully healed. Every moment, it had grown stronger, more confident, more alive. Elias had spent countless hours observing, studying, and protecting it, and the mother dragon had never left its side, not for a moment. Yet, as peaceful as it seemed, Elias knew that this was only the beginning. Trust had been earned, but the wider world, humans and dragons alike, had yet to understand the importance of this bond. And trust, he knew, was fragile. The mother dragon landed near the lab, folding her wings gracefully. Her eyes, bright with intelligence, met Elias's. There was no fear now. Only respect. Only understanding. She had chosen him, and he had honored her choice. The hatchling followed, fluttering close to its mother. Its wings were now strong enough to carry it further, and its small claws clicked confidently on the ground. It looked up at Elias, and for a moment, their eyes met a silent exchange of gratitude and recognition. Elias smiled. "You're ready," he said softly. "You both are ready." But even as he spoke, a faint hum reached the clearing. It was subtle at first, but it grew stronger. A fleet of human ships approached from the distance, carrying scientists, diplomats, and leaders from the nearest colony. News of Elias's miraculous success had spread quickly. The human authorities wanted to see for themselves the dragon he had saved. The mother dragon tensed, but she did not leave. She seemed to understand that Elias was still in charge, that he would handle this delicate situation. And Elias, in turn, knew that any sudden move could startle her and destroy the fragile peace. He stepped forward, hands raised in calm, confident gestures. "They're coming to understand," he said to the dragons. "They are here to see, not to harm." The humans landed carefully in the clearing, stepping out with cautious curiosity. Weapons were lowered, scanners powered down, and the scientists looked around with wide eyes. They had never seen dragons this close, let alone a mother and her fully healed hatchling. One of the officials, a woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, approached Elias. "Dr. Wren," she said, her voice a mix of awe and respect. "We heard the reports. We wanted to see if it was true." Elias nodded. "It is true," he said quietly. "The hatchling is fully healed. And the mother, she trusts humans, thanks to patience, care, and understanding. She has chosen to allow us into her world." The official stepped closer, her gaze fixed on the mother dragon. The massive creature did not move aggressively. Instead, she lowered her head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. The official's eyes widened. She's recognizing us," she whispered. Elias smiled. "Not recognizing. Exactly. Respecting. Trusting. And that is rare. Very rare." The hatchling chirped happily, hopping forward to inspect the newcomers. Its tiny wings twitched with curiosity. The humans froze for a moment, watching it, realizing that it was not just a creature, it was intelligent, aware, and connected to its mother in ways they had never imagined. The mother dragon let out a soft rumble, almost like a laugh, and nudged her young gently. It squeaked in response, and Elias felt a warmth in his chest. This moment was more than a success. It was history in the making. The humans moved slowly, giving space, letting the dragons feel safe. They began to take notes, recording the interactions, observing the intelligence, the care, and the bond between human and dragon. Elias stepped forward to speak to them. "This is not just about saving a life," he said. "This is about understanding, about cooperation. Dragons are not our enemies. They are our allies. And they can teach us things we could never learn alone." The officials exchanged glances, realization dawning on their faces. The world they knew, the world of fear and distance between humans and dragons, was changing, and Elias had been at the center of that change. The mother dragon shifted slightly, wings stretching fully, creating an imposing yet graceful silhouette against the bright sky. She was showing her strength, not as a threat, but as a statement. She had survived, protected her young, and now she was willing to stand alongside humans in peace. Elias walked toward her cautiously. "We can learn from each other," he said softly. "We can build something better together." The mother dragon lowered her head, eyes meeting his. Elias felt the weight of her understanding, the depth of the connection they had forged. For centuries, dragons had kept their distance from humans. Fear and misunderstanding had kept the species apart. But here, in this clearing, trust had overcome fear. The hatchling chirped again, testing the air with its wings. It fluttered upward briefly, circling Elias, before returning to its mother. It was strong, confident, alive, and ready for a future that was no longer uncertain. The human officials stepped back, allowing Elias and the dragons the space they needed. They understood that this was not a moment for interference, it was a moment to witness history. Finally, the commanding officer spoke. "Dr. Wren, your work has changed everything. Humans and dragons, perhaps we can truly coexist now." Elias nodded. "We must. For their sake, and for ours. This bond, it can bring understanding, peace, and protection. Dragons have knowledge that can help us, and humans have compassion and ingenuity that can help them. Together, we are stronger." The mother dragon rumbled softly, a sound that seemed to echo Elias's words. The hatchling squeaked in agreement, flapping its wings confidently. For the first time, a human had not only saved a dragon, but had earned its respect and trust. And that trust was now visible to all who watched a bridge between two species that had once been separated by fear, mystery, and distance. Elias looked at the mother dragon, then at the hatchling. "You've done something amazing," he said quietly. "You've shown that trust can change the world." The mother dragon nudged her young toward Elias, and the hatchling stepped forward, brushing against his hand. Elias felt a surge of pride and hope. This small gesture, simple but powerful, was the beginning of something much larger. The humans began to approach more confidently, careful not to startle the dragons. Scientists took measurements, diplomats asked questions, and the soldiers lowered their weapons completely. There was no hostility now, only curiosity, respect, and a willingness to learn. The mother dragon spread her wings fully once more, lifting slightly into the air with her young. They circled the clearing, moving in perfect harmony. Elias watched, a smile spreading across his face. The hatchling was agile, strong, and confident. The mother was protective, wise, and majestic. It was a beautiful sight, a symbol of hope and unity. As the day went on, the humans and dragons slowly began to interact. Small gestures, careful movements, and shared understanding created an environment of learning and respect. Elias guided the humans, showing them how to communicate safely, how to observe without fear, and how to honor the dragon's intelligence and emotions. By the end of the day, something remarkable had happened. A new alliance had been formed not just between Elias and the dragons, but between humans and dragons as a species. Trust had been given, respect had been earned, and cooperation had begun. Elias stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the mother and hatchling soar above. The wind carried the sound of their joyful chirps and rumbles across the forest. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that his courage, patience, and care had made this possible. The mother dragon circled higher, then landed beside Elias. Her eyes glowed softly, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they shared. She had trusted a human, and he had honored that trust. Together, they had achieved something that many would have thought impossible. The hatchling perched on a rock nearby, its wings folding neatly against its back. It chirped happily, occasionally nudging its mother. Elias knelt down, reaching out to touch its warm, glowing scales. The tiny dragon responded instantly, brushing against his hand with curiosity and recognition. For Elias, the message was clear. This was not just a single act of courage or kindness. It was the beginning of a new era, one where humans and dragons could coexist, learn from each other, and face the challenges of Novaterra together. And as the twin suns set over the crystalline forest, Elias knew this truth with certainty. A human had earned a dragon's trust. A bond had been forged that would never be broken. And a new age of cooperation and understanding had begun. The mother dragon spread her wings once more, lifting both herself and her hatchling into the sky. Elias watched them disappear into the horizon, glowing softly in the light of the twin suns. He smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning. The future was bright, full of possibility, and built on the unbreakable bond of trust, courage, and hope. Novaterra had changed forever, and humanity, for the first time, had true allies among the stars.